Great awakening, lights lords, and grand rising to those who have not yet awoken, to know that energy must behave in a certain way. And until that energy is either restricted or diverted into another path of acting, then it must take the path of least resistance. It must take the easiest path that it can use, or that it can actually benefit from, so that it can create the best and the greatest part of itself. See, we living in a world, we living in a society where it's so many restrictions, so many unnecessary restrictions at that. And with it being so many unnecessary restrictions, people have gotten out of balance with the natural flow of energy and the natural way of doing things, the natural flow of actually knowing thyself, actually knowing who you are. Okay? Like, see, right now, I'm outside, even though it's cold, it's fall here. I'm here connecting with the sun. It's one of those days where the sun is very bright, it's not too cloudy. So I just hopped out the tent. I slept in the tent because it wasn't that cold last night. And so after I woke up from, sleeping in my tent closer to the earth, I felt great. Like I tell people all the time, man, sleep closer to the earth, sleep close to the earth. If you go through my Instagram, I tell you, once you get closer to the earth, it connects you with negative ions. It connects you to who you are. The flow of energy is actually, the natural flow of energy is actually supposed to subconsciously tell you who you are before you even consciously, know it. Before you even consciously know it, you should already know intuitively. Okay, through your genes, through your genetics, you should be expressing dominant divine genes. Okay, and the non-divine, or the detrimental genes should be suppressed and become recessive. Okay, and the more they become recessive, the more that they will not be used in our genetic code over time. Okay, this is evolution. Okay, this is genetics. So what we should be doing is actually connecting with the natural flow of things, connecting with how our body works, how our body actually works. Okay, connecting with the energy of how everything naturally flows, not how it's restricted. We have cell phones, we have computers, we have people working in blocks, we have people working at desks, working at these jobs in tall buildings farther up away from the earth, and the farther you are away from the ground, which emits negative ions, so that you can have a healthy aura, then there will be more mental health issues, because everything starts mental, and then those mental health issues will then start to manifest as physical ailments. So for us to actually acknowledge the fact that we have the sun in the sky and we have the earth, simple things, very, very simple things. Once we acknowledge these very, very simple things first, and then actually use that simplicity to start making our own, complexities, depending on our own astrological energy, depending on our own cosmological makeup, how the light beamed through from the cosmos and hit your neural melanin in your head when you were coming through your mother's womb and created your natural personality. Once we acknowledge that, then we will know that in a natural setting, we actually have a specific purpose. We actually have abilities and powers that we can use and unlock on a daily basis. But in this video, I wanted to acknowledge the fact that a lot of people are actually, bickering, talking about globe earth, flat earth, infinite plane, all of this. But when you know how energy works, there's no debate. When you know how natural energy works, there is no debate. You don't need to debate about that. You don't need to try to prove, what you're saying. We put videos on YouTube and stuff like that for education. If people if people are actually willing to learn, then they come. If they just want to debate you, if they just want to battle your knowledge instead of actually syncretizing the knowledge, then there's no reason for you to even, be vibing with them, be matching your frequency with them. Okay, because you're on this plane to actually raise your frequency, raise your vibration. The all is constantly raising its vibration infinitely. The all is constantly raising its vibration. The zero is constantly reflecting on itself. Zero is constantly reflecting on itself through the nothingness and creating as many things as it can for betterment infinitely. So for you to actually match the frequency of people that want to debate you or see some type of knowledge that they misunderstand and do not take upon themselves to actually study it themselves and secretize the knowledge into their philosophy so that they can actually gain a higher consciousness, a higher level of awareness, and see the connection between your two perspectives, then you're basically putting yourself into another box. You're putting yourself into another box and you're keeping yourself stagnant. You're putting yourself into a box and keeping yourself stagnant by matching their frequency, because they're keeping themselves in the box because they don't want to understand. So you actually coming to them and trying to, trying to make them understand, it's not going to work because it's two different vibrations. It's like, how you going to make somebody understand that doesn't want to understand? To put it simply, how can you make someone understand something that they clearly, they don't want to understand? They just want you to understand what they're saying. They want you to understand what they're saying, but they want to disprove what you're saying. So it's not going to work. So what we must start doing is actually syncretizing this information. We must start syncretizing all of this information, the globe earth and the flat earth, any type of scientific facts that people say that they have, we should syncretize it. And when I say syncretize, go look up the word. When I say syncretize, I mean actually take the dominant aspects of each point of view, put them to scientific experimentation, okay, over repeated attempts, over repeated experiments, repeated studies, and integrate the aspects into one. Okay, integrate the aspects into one. Once you integrate these aspects into one another, then you will gain a wider view automatically while it's happening. This comes from the Vesica Pisces diagram. We are taught this. Everyone in the world is taught this. This comes from the Vesica Pisces diagram, which is basically the fish. The fish that you see, in the middle of the Vesica Pisces diagram is that fish that you see that they put on that they put to represent, Jesus or whatever, or the age of Pisces, that they put to represent the age of Pisces. It looks like a fish. It looks like a fish. You know what I'm talking about when you look it up. The Vesica Pisces, it's the compare and contrast diagram. Okay, that's what it is. So you put those 2 points of views together. When you put those 2 points of views together, or however many points of views, okay, it's an infinite thing. It's an infinite thing. So you can put multiple points of views together, syncretize them, and automatically gain a higher awareness. Automatically gain, if you're willing. Debating, no, that's not gonna work. These people are out here debating. Oh, I seen the curve. Like, bro, okay, you seen the curve. Apparently, these other people are saying that the curve is an illusion, and it's in the plane is really flat. It's not no curve, and then they saying you ain't seen the curve. They're saying, oh, if you seen the curve, then you got to be thousands and thousands of feet high. But see, what we're caught up in. Pardon me. But see, what we're caught up in, we're actually caught up in our own astrological energies. We're caught up in our own natural ways of looking at things, where we're living in unnatural settings, which is not a benefit to advancing our genetics. Okay, it was not a benefit to unlocking more genes, okay, inside of us to actually see different aspects of our charts, so we can see which parts of our chart or which parts of our astrological energy is a detriment to us and a detriment to how we see things, and which parts are a benefit, so that we can actually secretize each other's ways of thinking before we even get on specific topics. See, these people, the globe earth versus flat earth thing is, we're not looking at the source of things. Okay, we're not looking at the source of things. You have to look at the source of things first. Like I said in the beginning of this video, you have to actually start with acknowledging the simplest things first. You have to acknowledge the simplest things first, like acknowledging that the sun is here, the sky is here, okay, the moon, stars, the earth. All of that helps you to exist in this realm. All of that helps you to what you call survive, and actually help you get to a stage where you can live in abundance. Okay, it's actually supposed to be abundant, but we're not living in the right environment. And see, when you acknowledge these things, that's when you'll know, okay, I need to live in my right environment. But see, when you're doing that flat earth globe earth, debating, you're not acknowledging the simplest aspect of the whole thing. The simplest aspect of the whole thing is the fact that everything is energy. Now, what's the natural way that energy moves? Can anybody tell me that? What's the natural way? And what's the natural form that energy moves? Do you know about the Fibonacci code? Do you know about the Fibonacci code? Do you know about the golden ratio? How energy moves, how matter is created from the quantum soup becoming a particle. From the quantum soup becoming a particle in nature. Just by looking at nature, how nature works. Just by looking at nature, how nature works. Can somebody tell me that? I'll wait. Okay, well, the natural way that energy moves, if you know anything about the Fibonacci code or the golden ratio, the natural way that energy moves is in a spiral. Okay, what does this have to do with the flat earth, JAH? Why are you talking about Fibonacci code and golden ratio and spirals? Like, what does that have to do with the flat earth or the globe earth or whatever shape the earth is in? The thing is, you don't realize that the simplest aspect of being is the fact that once you consciously perceive something, when you acknowledge something, before you acknowledge something, before you consciously perceive anything, before you put your focus onto something, it's in the background as a wave of infinite potential. This is how the mind works. This is how nature works. This is how nature works. This is infallible. This knowledge is infallible. This knowledge is infallible. This is how the mind works. Before you focus on anything, it's in the background of your mind. It's in the background of your mind, and it's just a wave. It has not materialized into a particle for you to experience it. Upon becoming conscious of it, the energy or the light, starts to spiral. Okay, it starts to come into existence. It starts to spiral into a particle. Okay, this is proven through the Fibonacci code and the golden ratio. This is proven through the Fibonacci code and the golden ratio. So if you don't understand that, go study it. I'm here to live out and teach higher wisdom. I'm not here to tell you about every single thing. I mean, I might do a video about the golden ratio then, or the Fibonacci code. You know, the golden ratio and the Fibonacci code. I might do a whole video about that. But right now, acknowledge the fact that as soon as you acknowledge something, as soon as energy through quantum physics and quantum mechanics, as soon as you acknowledge something, as soon as you acknowledge anything in your reality, it starts to become a particle. It starts to become an experience for you, a conscious experience, something that you can focus on constantly. Before that, it's a wave. It's a wave of infinite potential. It's a wave of infinite potential and possibility. So what we must realize is that the shape of the earth is due to the collective perception. Woo! Hey, I'm gonna break some heads with this one. I'm gonna break some heads. Hold up. The shape of the earth is due to collective perception. That's why I say I'm here to live out and teach higher wisdom as an example for the collective consciousness. Because when the collective consciousness becomes conscious of the fact that it creates its reality, when the collective consciousness becomes conscious of the fact that it creates its reality, everything will change. Everything will start to become more heavenly, more zero-y, okay? Or more one-y. It'll be more oneness by acknowledging the zero-ness, okay? Because acknowledging the zero-ness is the simplest form of everything. Before everything, there was no thing. But when you acknowledge something, that due to your perception, you create something. See, first, okay, like I said, there is nothing. Everything is an infinite wave. Everything is an infinite wave of potential. The ancient Egyptians, or the ancient Kemet, or all the ancient civilizations of Africa, and the ancient Mayan civilizations, Lemuria, Atlanteans, they all called this Noon. They all called this the waters of Nu. Okay, they all had different names for it, but it was all called something dealing with water. And in water, there's nothing but waves. There's nothing like concrete. It's so fluid. Everything is just fluid. Everything is you can stick your hand through it. Everything is holographic. Okay. This is scientifically been proven now. They have to come out with this information. Okay, as people get as they try to get the head of humanity dumber, they must come out with this information to the cancer cells. They must give this information to the cancer cells. Okay, people working within the system and making more cancer. They have to give this to them because they want cancer cells. They are not acknowledging they're a part of the whole body, but they want to have the most information in the body, which is why they create tumors. Okay, which is why they create disease. That's how they create disease. It's too much information for them to even be using because they're not even connected with the being that they're in. They're overusing and misusing the information simultaneously. So what we need to start acknowledging, stop this globe, earth, flat earth thing. Stop this globe, earth, flat earth thing, man. This globe, earth, flat earth debate. Start syncretizing y'all information. All those scientific facts y'all got, start syncretizing this information. Because before you acknowledge something consciously, it's a waveform. And when you start to acknowledge it consciously, it starts to become a particle. And in that process of it becoming a particle, that energy starts to spiral. But due to your astrological programming, due to your astrological energy, and how the light, how your prism is made, how your auric prism is made through your neural melanin, how your auric prism is made, that light, that energy, it spirals into your auric prism. It spirals around your auric prism and through your auric prism, and then that light, due to your astrological auric prism, is actually deterred. It's actually sent into other directions, depending on what type of energies you have in your astrological auric field. So first, that energy naturally spirals into your reality, becoming a particle. Then due to your perception, which is your astrological orbic field, is the light is bended. Your astrological orbic prism, bends that light in different ways, so that when that light is bent, after it's spiraled into a particle, when that light is bent into your astrological orbic prism, then it becomes a perceptual experience. Okay, then it becomes a perceptual experience for you to focus on. So the collective, you have to acknowledge this. You have to acknowledge this. Four-dimensional space-time curvature states that however much energy is in one space determines the experience of time, or determines how fast or slow that time is moving, or what timeline you are in, depending on what type of energy and how much energy is in that space. So when you got people in confusion, or you got people in confusion or not willing to actually, acknowledge certain things, meaning not willing to syncretize information, just want to debate, or just want to bash the information, period, or don't want to learn at all and just keep saying they want to learn but not even really learning due to their astrological energy messed up. But it's needed. It's needed for us to learn. For us to learn to come to this realization that we need syncretization. We need to start syncretizing things. We need to start syncretizing this information. We need to start syncretizing all of this. Because y'all bickering about the globe earth or the flat earth, when four-dimensional space-time curvature already tell you that four-dimensional space-time curvature, quantum physics, quantum mechanics, the waters of noon, the golden ratio, and the Fibonacci sequence. The Fibonacci sequence already tells you that, okay, everything is spiraling. Everything. We literally living in a constant spiral. We're literally living we're time traveling. We're living in a constant spiral. It's spiraling. It's spiraling. Now, upward or downward is a perception. Everything is perception in this reality. Okay? Now, due to the collective makes the collective perception of this realm. So, the collective makes a collective perception of this realm. So, what we have is people that manipulate the collective, people that put in information, people that get the energy from the cosmos, actually unlock their own genes and then give the information out to the collective. So the collective can you know what I'm saying, try to so they can give it to the collective. So they can be like, hey man, that's why people come to the collective. That's why Christ comes to the collective. That's why whatever you want to call them, man. That's why divine beings, what you want to call them, Christ, you want to call them deities, devas, the spiritual ones, the ascended masters, whatever you want to call them. People that become enlightened, they become enlightened in the meaning putting more light into their specific genes and unlocking genes. They come to the collective after they acknowledge this, because they want to embed this information into the DNA of the all, or shine light on this information, help the all remember this type of information within the collective, instead of it just being a few people. Now, see, all we need is a few people to actually embed this information into the collective and slowly transform it. Okay? We're moving in a spiral. The collective determines whether it's moving up or whether it's moving down. Now, the earth plane itself is just everything is just spiraling energy. Okay? Everything is just spiraling energy. What you see is illusion. That's why like I can't like accept a flat earth theory. I can't accept a globe earth theory. I can't accept a infinite flat plane theory. I can't just accept them alone. I must integrate that information. I got a Libra, my Libra Jupiter is in the 10th house. I got a Libra Jupiter retrograde in the 10th house. I'm destined. I'm destined. I am destined. I must syncretize all this information. I must have the best philosophy to myself. I must have the best philosophy also to myself, because my sun in Aries in the 4th house, my moon in Aries in the 4th house, and my Venus is Aries in the 5th house. So I'm really focused on me like a motherfucker. And putting that together with my Libra Jupiter retrograde in the 10th house, I have to. With anybody I converse with, any knowledge that I see online, anything that I study, I must put a lot of passion into that, and I must actually, put this information together instead of just taking a side. Okay, you can't just take a side. You have to actually look from each point of view and try to acknowledge the aspects of each one and integrate them into one, so that you can solve the problem. Okay, so that you can solve the bickering. 4-dimensional space-time curvature states how much energy is in one space determines the time. So we are literally time traveling. That this plane is actually moving in a spiral. The plane is moving in a spiral due to the collective consciousness energy, what we consciously focus on. This energy is moving in a spiral. Your planet is moving in a spiral. And as it's moving in a spiral, things are being consciously focused on, materialized, and the things that's not being consciously focused on, materialized, are dropping out in the background into the waters anew. So you're literally like moving like a comet in a spiral. Okay, so you're literally like moving in a comet, like a comet in a spiral, and that is an infinite plane, and you're moving through infinite waters of new. You're moving through the infinite waters of new. Okay, you're moving through the infinite waters of new, materializing anything that can be thought of. Okay, you're materializing anything that can be thought of. Okay. And actually manifesting or materializing the best facts for that. So if you're a firm flat earth believer, of course you're going to get more and more facts. Everything is based off perception and belief. Everything is mental. Soon as you focus on something, focus on a thought, everything in your reality must start. The universe must start giving you logic behind it. Must start giving you, especially if you focus your energy on it a lot. If you focus your energy on it a lot, the universe must tell you. The universe must be like, okay, this is what you want. Okay. Now, if you focus on not wanting something, or you focus on not having something, you're in a state of victimization or desperation, then the universe is going to give you victimization and desperation. If you focus on the flat earth theory, then you're going to keep getting facts that say, okay, this is the flat earth theory, and prove to you that it's the flat earth. If you focus on the globe earth theory, okay, you're going to keep getting facts over and over and over again. You're going to get it. The more you focus on it, okay, the more you focus on it. Now, if you don't focus on it as much, because there's a difference, because there's people that looked at the flat earth theory and thought it had, real deep belief in it, and then they saw something. They just saw something online. They just, oh no, man, the flat earth oh man, I thought it was flat. Man, nah, I think it's globe. But see, that's only because the duality, since there's another option, you have another option. And so if you're not completely focused on the flat earth theory, you know what I'm saying, the other option will present itself. Okay? The other option will continually present itself. And that's why I say you can't just focus on any theory about how the earth is and how it's made and how it's created. You can't just simply focus on each one without actually syncretizing the information together. Because what's going to happen is if you don't do that, you're going to keep getting opposition from the other view. You're going to keep getting opposition from the other view, and then that's going to make you want to have more facts about your view. Okay? So that you can keep your view. Because you're going to feel like they're trying to change, you're going to feel like their view is trying to change your view. So what you got to do is actually syncretize the views by connecting with the simplest part of this reality, which is the mind, the all, The simplest part of this reality, how this reality comes into fruition, is four-dimensional space-time curvature. The natural way, due to Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio, through a spiral, through an infinite spiral, an unending spiral. And that's what we're in. So there's an unending spiral of energy that we're actually in. There's an unending spiral of energy that we're within and a part of. And due to our perceptions, due to our collective perceptions, we shape the prism of the earth. The earth, like I said, you have your own astrological auric prism due to your astrological energy. Okay? Everything is in the background. Everything is a wave. Until you focus. When you focus, that wave starts to spiral into particles. But due to your auric field or your auric prism, based on your astrological energy, that light or that energy starts to not spiral. It starts to bounce off in different ways. Still trying to spiral the whole time. So it's going, all different kinds of crazy ways, depending on what type of astrological energy you have, depending on what type of prism you have. So the collective, actually, through brainwave study, we emit brainwaves. So we all have our own astrological auric prism, but due to us having our own astrological auric prism, we vibrate energy out in certain shapes, in certain invisible shapes, and all of our energies together, being conscious, through the conscious beings, all conscious beings' energies together, vibrate these certain shapes in this plane, this infinite plane of infinite potential, and it creates a prism. It creates a certain prism for the realm, for the whole realm, for all of us to exist in at one time, being reflections of one another, being different points of consciousness focused on specific parts of light within the waters of Nu, in the infinite darkness, looking at itself. So we're vibrating different shapes out, and all of these shapes are putting together a collective prism for what we call the earth plane. So now the earth plane has its own prism based on, and it's constantly changing. That's why you can't just say globe or flat, you can't just say it's just the infinite flat plane. You can't say that it's not flat. That's perception. It is flat in a perception because it's holographic. It's all holographic. But you have to acknowledge you have to acknowledge as many perceptions as you can about the thing, about any subject. So the prism of the earth, since people are being born all the time, having different astrological auric prisms, the prism, the shape of the earth is constantly changing. Literally, as I speak, the shape of the earth is changing. As I speak, the shape of the earth is changing. As I speak, the shape of my own body is changing. As I speak, you're changing. Your consciousness is changing. The unseen, because the unseen creates the physical. So the unseen is actually constantly changing due to the information that it gets from becoming physical and experiencing. Then that information goes into a database that we call the Akashic Records, which is your DNA. That goes into your DNA so that it can be taken to unlock more genes that can be expressed. Then due to those genes being expressed and being cut off and on, certain genes being cut off, certain genes being cut on, it creates another auric prism. Acknowledge your light. Acknowledge your auric prism. Acknowledge nature. Acknowledge the sun. Acknowledge the moon. Acknowledge the stars. Acknowledge the earth that you stand on. The farther away you get from the earth, the less you will understand about the earth. The farther away you disconnect with nature, the less you will understand about nature. Whatever you focus on, All is mental. Whatever you focus on. Whatever you focus on is what you is what you will get more of. Because he that have will have more. And he that doesn't have, that which he does have will be taken away. I am JAH MASHIAC, and I am here to live out and teach higher wisdom as an example for the collective consciousness. And I prophesy the syncretization of information is the completion of divination. Acknowledging that every aspect is divine in its own sense, but it also parts of it can be a detriment. But taking those divine aspects, putting that energy together, putting all of that energy together, we will overcome our differences. Acknowledging that we are, and our philosophies are, reflections of each other. Our philosophies, we will acknowledge that our philosophies, our beliefs, our belief systems, our ways of life are no more than different perceptions of the same thing, the same experience, in an infinite drama. Share and subscribe. And acknowledge your higher self, which is nature. Sleep closer to the earth. Get closer to the earth. Ground. Do whatever it takes. Then everything else will come. All of the information that you need to end confusion. To know whether the earth is flat, or to know whether I should be focused on whether the earth is flat or whether the earth is globe, or what is it. We really shouldn't even be focused on what shape the earth is. We should be focusing on what the shape of our mind is. Is your mind in good shape? Because like the scripture says, the ancient scripture says, and Paul wrote, it is good to do physical exercise, but it's better to do spiritual. It is better to do spiritual exercise. It is better to exercise your spirit. And spirit means nothing more than the mind. Spirit means nothing more than animation, activity, solar activity. Activity of the light. Spirit means nothing more than consciousness. Do you just claim to be conscious, aware, or woke? Or will you practice your consciousness? Will you put your consciousness to use? For betterment and not a detriment. Using divine intelligence. Acknowledge this, Reverend. Hey, nah. Hey, I'm out. Hey, I'm out, y'all. Hey, I love myself, though, for real. Share and subscribe. Hey, man, you know, if you don't understand some of the stuff that I talked about in this video, then Just go down, go down my video, go down my channel, man. Just start, studying. I got a playlist I call Natural Laws. That's the first thing I really recommend to people to watch. And other than that, I got some music coming out. I got an EP I'm working on called Wicks on Wax. I want people to, cop that. I want people to watch me. I'm working with Right Radio. I'm working with Radio Pushers TV. Yeah, we finna get some things done. In fact, I got an interview today. So, hey, you know what I'm saying? Acknowledge your higher self, man. Let's do it. Let's get this information out there. I love myself. Peace.